Ephesians 5:14-16. Wake up from your sleep. This is to the church, by the way. Climb out of your coffins. Christ will show you the light. So watch your step, use your head, and make the most of every chance you get. These are desperate times. And I can sum that up by saying this: the purpose of your life is not to arrive safely at death one day. Make the most of every chance you get, of every breath that God gives you. And I don't have a sermon title today as much as I really just have an announcement to make. And the announcement is this: the time is now. The time is now. And I say this with humility, please hear my heart, and an us for them kind of spirit. But the secular gospel that the world has been preaching is failing. And a space is being created for the church to step up and be the church and do what we do best. And my announcement to us, Red Rocks, is the time is now. So this is the Babylon motto: my way, not God's way. My way and not God's way. And from that moment on, this invisible force that is as real as gravity was released and unleashed onto our planet and into the heart of every human being. And if you go, just flip a few more pages in Genesis, and you're gonna get to Genesis chapter 11, and this is the story of the Tower of Babel. And here's verse 4. Then they said, come and let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches the heavens so that we may make a name for ourselves. And so once again, so we can do this our way, so we can find what we're looking for, so that we can make a name for ourselves. The devil has always hedged his bets in our self-interests. Like he knows if I can just sort of promote them, oh, they will buy whatever I'm selling. A couple verses later, verse 9, that is why it was called Babel, which by the way is where we get the word Babylon. Because there the Lord confused. Somebody say confused. Confused the language of the whole world. So the word Babel means confusion. If you follow any way other than God's way, it will eventually lead to confusion, and the end result will ultimately be chaos. And I'm so convinced this is what we are experiencing right now, from division to this low-grade chronic hysteria and panic to global conflict and mass shootings. It is the corporate fruit of centuries of saying, we will do this our way. From Eden to Babel, all the way to Babylon, all the way to the culture that Jesus was born into, all the way up through history to the Enlightenment just a few hundred years ago, where humanity on a massive scale for the first time ever took its eyes off of the divine and essentially said, God, forget you, we're gonna do this our way, and by the way, I'll call you if there's an emergency, which is why as long as there is prosperity covering a country, churches are empty. Until tragedy strikes. I'm telling you, God is more for your happiness than even you. But the correct definition, this long-term happiness related to your joy and contentment that is intertwined with holiness and can't be snatched away from you with a phone call or a bad day. So if the secular gospel preaches basically finding yourself, the Jesus gospel preaches dying to yourself, which interestingly enough is actually the route to really finding yourself. The one who loses their life for me will be the one who finds it. And here's the Babylon promise, that you can rediscover your true self by making your feelings your God, that you can solve your unhappiness with everything you see on those Instagram ads, every billboard, and every brochure. Babylon's solution for your unhappiness is essentially more of what you already have. The secular gospel is beginning to fail. Why? Because it essentially is trying to promise you the kingdom, but without the king. And we don't get the kingdom without the king. What did Jesus say to the woman at the well? He said, woman, you can drink from this well or any other well down here, but you're going to eventually be thirsty again. But I am living water. And anybody who drinks from me will never thirst again. In me, you will really find what you're looking for, because what you're really after is the joy and the peace and the patience and the satisfaction and the wholeness and the completion that comes from knowing the King. These are the things of heaven, and billionaires can't buy them. The secular gospel is beginning to fail. And I say that with so much humility. And once again, that us for them spirit, not an us against them versus them, I told you so spirit. It's actually not Christianity. That's like a tradition that masquerades as the way of Jesus, but that's not the heart of God. Those are his kids. And I used to be there, and so did you. This church is full of prodigals, or else what are any of us doing here? But the time is now to go and get them. A moment is being created, a space for the church to do what the church does. Is right in front of us right now. Ahava is a love of the will that come hell or high water. I've seen the wedding ceremony and the honeymoon phase, and I've seen the storms and the valleys of life, but all my chips are in. I'm yours for the rest of my life. No exit doors in my future. I'm not going anywhere kind of love. This is Ahava, and the only reason it's possible is because we first receive unconditional agape love in the first place. This is the eternal love that fills this eternal groove. And marriage is so much better. A new job is so much better. Denver is so much better. Austin is so much better. Life is so much better. Kids are so much better when you don't need them to complete you, because you already have a God who has solved that eternity problem in your heart and soul for you. Church, we have an answer for the sin problem. It does not live within you. It is outside and beyond you. A perfect God who knew no sin and became sin to take the sin from you and give you his righteousness and perfection. It is completely yours for free. And in case you're wondering what's the catch, there's not one. There's not. And he's bringing you back to Eden. And those echoes you sense from Eden, I would argue, is not the Eden behind you, but the one in front of you that is calling you home. The kingdom of heaven is here. There is only one solution to the broken human heart. There is only one answer to this indentation of eternity, and it is not a new mindset or a new product or a new ad. It is not it's not a new city, it's not a new leader, it's not a new relationship, it's not a new fill in the blank. It is a person, and his name is Jesus Christ. Austin, Denver, and Brussels, we have the solution. His name is Jesus, and he is here not for religion, but for a relationship. And so if I can bring this full circle and read Ephesians 5 one more time. Wake up from your sleep and climb out of your coffins, because Christ will show you the light. So watch your step and use your head and make the most of every chance you get, because these are desperate times. The time is now. Some of you have known this whole God thing is real, and you've known it for a while, but you've been delaying surrendering your life to him. And my message for you is just, the time is now. A lot of us have had coworkers or friends that we've wanted to invite to church, and we've been delaying that or putting it off because we would say, man, my place of work is dark, and my apartment complex is dark, and my school is dark, and my city is dark. And my message for you is, good. That's why God put you there, to be a light in that dark space. And the time is now for you to be an agent of invitation. Don't wait. A lot of you have been on the edge of going all in with your generosity and really seeing what that feels like, to hand your treasure with open hands to God and live this way, and you're waiting for a raise. And all I'm saying is, if you have that posture, no matter how many raises you get, you're still gonna have that posture. And my challenge for you is, the time is now. I want you to see and experience what it looks like to live with open hands, and watch as your world gets bigger and bigger in every way. And for a lot of us, we've been sitting on the edge of the deep end, or waiting in the shallow end of our faith. Why? Because it's way safer just to have enough God to get me to heaven. And you know what? You're right. It's way safer. But you miss out on so much of the goodness of God and what he has for you in the shallow end. The goal of your life is not to arrive safely at death one day. The time is now for you to dive headfirst in with no inhibition and try this God thing for all that it is. The time is now because the tides are shifting and a new day is dawning and a space is being created for the church to be the church. David said, life is a mist, here today and gone tomorrow, that we're not even guaranteed next weekend. And after the year we've all had, we know that better than we've ever known it before. So today is the day of salvation. This is the week of invitation. This is your season of generosity, and this year is your year to go all in. Amen.